March 2024, paper 1, variant 2. Question 1. Which method is used to find the average period of oscillation? How can I find the average period of oscillation? I need to measure the time it takes to swing from P to Q and then back to P. From P to Q, you cannot go from P to Q alone. From P to Q and back to P 10 times, and then divide that time by 10. Car moves through a measured distance s. Distance is s and the time is t. So speed equals distance over time, s over t. On Mars, the acceleration is 3.7. What is the weight? Weight equals mg, so 2 times 3.7. Total would be 7.4 newtons. Again, we're using 3.7, not 9.8. Why? Because we are on Mars, not on Earth. A rocket is traveling vertically upwards. Three forces act on it. It's traveling vertically upwards, okay, with 100,000 newtons. The downward force, the weight is 80,000 newtons. What is the air resistance? The air resistance has to be opposite to the motion. It's traveling upwards, so the air resistance needs to be downwards. The air resistance needs to be downwards. And it's moving at a constant speed, so the air resistance has to be 20,000 newtons downwards. An irregular plane object is suspended from point O. The center of gravity, we know that the center of gravity has to be directly below, it has to be directly below the point of suspension. Okay, vertically below the point of suspension. Three situations are listed. Someone blowing air, okay? In which situations is work being done? Okay, someone blowing air into a party balloon. This could be a crane lifting a block of concrete. Okay, a pile of books resting on a shelf. This is wrong. Okay, okay, so it should be 1 and 2. 1 and 2 only. Definitely 3 is wrong. We know that definitely. So you can cancel out 1A and D. And you know for a fact that 2 is correct. So the only answer would be B. Which row describes an advantage and a disadvantage of wind turbines? Advantage and disadvantage of wind turbines. No fuel needed, harmful gases released. This is wrong. Variable supply, fuel needed. No, this is wrong. No harmful gases released, variable supply. This is correct. Okay. One of the disadvantages of the wind turbines is that it has a variable supply. What is the weight of the metal block? How can I find the weight of the metal block? I have the pressure and I have the dimensions. Pressure equals force over area. So basically the weight is the force. So force equals pressure times area. The pressure is 0.23 and the area is 4.5 times 2.5. Let's calculate it. Okay. This would be around 2.6 newtons. Okay, we need the area in contact with the surface, which is 4.5 and 2.5. Which row correctly describes the movement of particles in solids and liquids? Okay, in solids, they vibrate, in liquids, they move around each other. C. What is the boiling point, boiling temperature of water in standard atmospheric pressure? We know that the boiling temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, not 100 degrees Kelvin. 100 degrees Celsius. How can I convert from Celsius to Kelvin? Kelvin equals Celsius plus 273. 100 plus 273, which would be 373 degrees Kelvin. Which row describes how the volume and the mass of liquid mercury changes as it is heated. The volume, when heated, the volume increases while the mass stays the same. In which situation does the store of energy of the water increase? How can I increase the store of energy? Freezing? No. Being heated? Yes. When you heat up the water, the store of energy, the internal energy increases. Okay? Which statement describes what happens to particles during the evaporation of water? During the evaporation of water, what happens? Particles become in fixed position. They escape from the surface, definitely. Which of the following is not an example of convection? Which of the following is not an example of convection? Hmm. The only non okay, not an example of convection would be a spoon handle being too hot. Okay, becomes too hot when placed in a hot drink. Why? Because it conducts energy. It conducts energy. Hmm. Okay, a hollow aluminum cube is filled with very hot water. Side X is the opposite of side Y. One of them is black and the other one is white. Okay, and then you have your hands on both sides. The hand held near Y feels warmer than X. Okay, Y feels warmer than X. Then definitely Y would be black. Okay, Y would be black. Why? Because the rate of emission would be greater for Y. The rate of emission of a black surface would be greater than the white surface. It's a better emitter of infrared radiation. Hmm. This is a process. It's called refraction, definitely not diffraction. Hmm. Refraction, why? Because the speed decreases, okay, when it enters the glass block. It decreases when it enters the glass block. Which row gives an example of longitudinal wave? A longitudinal wave, not a light wave. It is a sound wave. Sound wave moves parallel to the direction of propagation. Which statement about the total internal reflection is correct? Total internal reflection occurs when light is incident. Okay. Total internal reflection. What happens? Okay. The angle of incidence has to be greater than the critical angle. It cannot be less than. It has to be greater, not less than. So we'll cancel out B and D. Total internal reflection occurs when light is incident on a glass or on a glass to air boundary or on an air to glass boundary. So the light, should it be moving from the glass to the air or the other way around? It has to be moving from glass to air. From glass to air. It cannot be going the other way around. For example, in question 16, could this light could this light totally internally reflect? No, it can never. Why? Because it's moving from the air to the glass. If it was moving the other way around from the glass to the air, it could have totally internally reflected when, if the angle of incidence was greater than the critical angle. Okay, the angle of incidence has to be greater than the critical angle. Question 19. Question 19. We have a green light. Which one refracts more and which one refracts less? We can just write it down. Roy, Gbif. We have the G. More than green would be violet, and less than green would be yellow. Which electromagnetic waves are used for sterilizing medical equipment? Gamma rays. Which process causes the sound wave to produce an echo? Reflection. A student stands 75 meters from a wall. Okay, what is the approximate time between making the sound and hearing the echo? To solve this, we need the speed of sound. Speed of sound is around 330 meters per second. Sometimes you can use 300 meters per second. So you have a range, okay? You have a range which is around 330 meters per second. This is the speed. How can we use the speed to find the time? We know that the speed equals 2 distance over time. To find the time would be 2 distance over speed. So 2 times 75 over 330. Okay. The closest number would be 0.5 seconds. This would be the closest value. Okay. That's it. Okay. That's it. Which statement is always true? Is always true. A magnetic material attracts a non-magnetic, no. A magnetic material repels another magnetic material. It's not necessarily. A magnetic material attracts another magnetic material if one of them is magnetized. Yes, this is true. If one of them is magnetized. So in B, if he had written if one of them was magnetized, it would have been right. Okay? Okay. Hmm. A polythene rod is charged by friction. The polythene becomes negatively charged. Why is it negatively charged? Because it gains electrons. Hmm. The unit of electromotive force, volt. Diagram shows circuit containing, okay, two lamps. Current in ammeter 1 is 0.3. Ammeter 3 has to be 0.3 as well. It has to be 0.3 uh, amperes as well. What happens to the current at this point? It gets split. It gets split. If they are identical lamps, then it will be split equally, 0.15 and 0.15. Okay? Parallel circuits, we can split the current. If they are equal resistors or equal lamps, then it will be split equally. So the current in ammeter 2 would be 0.15. In ammeter 3, it would be 0.3. Into which wire is a switch connected? Switch is always connected, again, a switch is always connected to the live wire. Which device uses the magnetic effect of an electric current? Magnetic effect would be the relay. Magnetic effect would be the relay. Transformer has 200 turns on the primary coil, which is the NP connected to a 240 supply. This is the VP. The output voltage would be the VS. How can I find the NS? Yeah. VP over NP equals VS over NS. 240 over 200 equals 60 over NS over NS. Can I cross multiply? Yes. 200 times 60 divided by 240, which would be 50. Which statement about an atom is correct? Which statement about an atom is correct? An atom has a positive charge? No. Negative charge? No. Neutral charge, because the positive charge in the nucleus equals the total negative charge of electrons. This is correct. Okay. D would be wrong because the negative charge is not inside the nucleus. Hmm. Which nuclei are isotopes? Again, isotopes meaning that they have the same proton number. So we only have 2 and 3. Which apparatus is used to measure the background radiation? To measure the background radiation, we need a counter and a detector only. Okay, we don't need the source. We do not need the source to measure the background radiation. Hmm. Which row correctly identifies the nature of each radioactive emission? Alpha is a helium nucleus. Beta is an electron. Okay, and definitely the gamma is an electromagnetic wave. A nucleus spontaneously emits radiation and becomes a nucleus of a different element. When it becomes a different element, it could emit either alpha or beta. Okay, either alpha or beta. Diagram shows a lead-lined box. Why is it lined with lead? To stay radioactive for longer, makes the box heavier, makes the radioactive source more stable. No, it reduces, okay, the amount of radiation that can escape from the box. Hmm. Student draws, okay, simplified diagram. Which arrow represents the motion taking 365 days to complete? Which is A. We know that the motion of the Earth around the Sun takes 365 days. Table gives information of 4 planets. 2 of these planets are gaseous and 2 of them are rocky. Which of these planets are rocky? Which of these planets are rocky? We know that the 4 closest planets to the sun are rocky and the 4 furthest planets are gaseous. So if we choose the closest one, it would be planet 3. And the one just after it, okay, the one just after it would be 2. We can cancel out one. We can just cancel out one. And we can cancel out four. Why? Because it's slightly further than two. We can cancel out, I'm sorry, we can cancel out four. Why? Because it's slightly further than two. That's it. Okay. So the rocky planets, again, the rocky planets have to be close to the sun. So we'll just choose the closest planets to the sun, which are two and three. Which row shows the most common elements radiated by the sun and electromagnetic spectrum? Uh, the most common elements are the hydrogen and helium. The regions of radiation are infrared and visible light. What is a light year? It is the distance traveled in space in 1 year. Okay. What's the approximate diameter of the Milky Way? 100,000 years.